Hi YouTubers, this is Lonnie Clark again. This is going to be part 2. I don't know how many parts it's going to be, but I'm going to read this book. Population Control Through Nuclear Pollution by John Gofman and Arthur Tamplin. Arthur Tamplin is mentioned first, so. So this is part 1, or chapter 1. Why? I have to take off my glasses. Whether men will be able to survive the changes of environment that their own skill has brought about is an open question. If the answer is in the affirmative, it will be known someday. If not, not. If the answer is to be in the affirmative, men will have to apply scientific ways of thinking to themselves and their institutions. They cannot continue to hope, as all politicians hitherto have, that in a world where everything has changed, the political and social habits of the 18th century can remain inviolate. Not only will men of science have to grapple with the sciences that deal with man, but, and this is far a more difficult matter, they will have to persuade the world to listen to what they have discovered. If they cannot succeed in this difficult enterprise, man will destroy himself by his halfway cleverness. I am told that if he were out of the way, the future would lie with rats. I hope they will find it a pleasant world, but I am glad I shall not be there. And that is by Bertrand Russell, from a section in the Scientists as Writers edition, James Harrison, Camden, Mass., the MIT Press, 1965, pages 145 to 146. And let me just say this, folks, I'm probably going to get better at the reading as I go along, okay, because I've never done this before. This particularly appropriate quotation from one of the world's most eminent scientist philosophers expresses clearly and succinctly why we are writing this book. We do not wish to prepare the way for rats, but as Lord Russell has so well stated, it is crucial to persuade the world to listen to what men of science have discovered concerning the sciences that deal with man. Such sciences provide essential messages for every living human, for at stake are two of man's greatest treasures, the health of his own generation and the health and the very existence of future generations. Atomic or nuclear energy programs, as currently conceived and burgeoning rapidly, both in the so-called peaceful and military forms, provide clear and present dangers to both of these health treasures. A characteristic of modern technologies devoted to self-perpetuation and aggrandizement is that they are quick to resort to the cliché that only the, quote, expert, unquote, can understand the hazards of the technology. The public, it is stated, must place its trust and faith in these experts. We have far, far greater faith in the intelligence of the layman in the public. And since it is the health of the layman and his descendants that concern us, we are determined to explain in readily intelligible terms how nuclear technology poses grave threats to health. Well, we're at 4 minutes and 24 seconds. The next subchapter is Public Concern is Indicated. Almost no family has escaped the suffering and the tragedy of premature death due to cancer or leukemia. Atomic radiation threatens a major increase in the occurrence of such leukemia and cancer tragedies. That people appreciate the depth of suffering occasioned by these fearsome diseases is attested to by the public generosity in supporting efforts to mitigate such suffering through medical research. Extensive, dedicated research is vigorously pursued with the goal of adding 6 months, a year, or a few years of enjoyable life to the involuntary victims of cancer or leukemia. Surely, if the public generously supports these efforts, it is also entitled to know that nuclear technology, unless curbed, promises to add tens of thousands of additional cancer and leukemia deaths every year in the United States alone. No expert knowledge has ever been required by the family of a cancer or leukemia victim to appreciate the meaning of these diseases. Cancer and leukemia are major health hazards posed by atomic radiation for the generation of humans currently alive. But there are far greater health hazards of atomic radiation, the so-called genetic hazards. Radiation delivered to the ovary of women and the testes of men damages the germ plasm, which will later provide for future generations of human beings. And it does so in an irreversible manner. The birth of a child handicapped by severe physical or mental deformity has marred the life of countless families. This would be sufficient reason for extreme concern on the part of the public. But the problem is far more serious than this. As a result of medical discoveries in recent years, it is known that almost all major diseases afflicting man are in part caused by damage to the genetic material of the ova or sperm. Thus, we now appreciate that the major killing disease of our era, namely coronary heart disease, with its attendant heart attacks, must be regarded as a genetic disease. Additionally, diabetes mellitus, rheumatoid arthritis, and schizophrenia have now been definitively added to the list of diseases known to have a genetic factor in their causation. Many medical authorities believe the further developing evidence will confirm a genetic component for almost all of human disease. Schizophrenia is a major mental illness, and we must be reminded that mental illness accounts for approximately 1 out of every 2 hospital beds in our country. Nuclear technology, unless curbed, promises to add more than 100,000 extra cases of all types of genetically determined diseases each year to the United States alone. 2 inevitable questions arise. How large is the burden of cancer, leukemia, and genetic diseases expected to be from the unbridled atomic energy development? And why do we go ahead with such atomic energy development at such a high cost to the health of this and the future generations? Much of this book is devoted to answering both of these questions and to suggesting why the intelligent public must become informed and aroused to action. Wow. Let me read that last sentence again. Much of this book is devoted to answering both of these questions and to suggesting why the intelligent public must become informed and aroused to action. So I guess that's why they got rid of him. Made sure nobody heard about him after a little while. Anyways, I'll end here and I'll put up part 3. I'll do this regularly till we get through the book. I think it's a great book. Good idea, Fix It Stupid. Ciao, you guys.